Zevachim. And we are in Yud Daled Zion. When they came to Nob and Gibeon, the Bamos were again permitted. The most holy offerings were eaten within the curtains, and offerings of lesser holiness in all the cities of Israel. When they came to Jerusalem, the Bamos were again forbidden and were never again permitted. And it was the inheritance, and it was the inheritance.
The place that was called inheritance, yeah.
The most holy offerings are eaten within the curtain, and the offerings of lesser holiness and the Ma'aseh Sheni within the walls surrounding Jerusalem. All offerings which are consecrated during a period of Bama prohibition and which were offered outside the period of Bama prohibition are subject to a positive commandment and a negative commandment, and one incurs chorus on their account. If they were consecrated during a period of Bama permissibility, but they were offered up during a period of Bama prohibition, they are subject to a positive commandment and a negative commandment. But one does not incur chorus on their account. If one consecrated them during a period of Bama prohibition, but they offered them during a period of Bama permissibility, they are subject to a positive commandment, but they are not subject to a negative commandment.
Okay. Elu kodshim krevim b'mishkan. So the following kodshim had to be brought in the Mishkan, even during the times when Bamos were permitted. In other words, Nov and Givon, and Gilgal. Okay. Kodshim shehukdeshu leMishkan. So any kodshim that had been sanctified for the sake of the Mishkan, things that are stam for the Mishkan. For example, korbanos tzibur, krevim b'mishkan. So anything that's a communal sacrifice that could not be brought on a private altar, it had to be brought to the Mishkan. The korbanos ayachid b'bama, and any personal sacrifices could be brought on the private altar. So in other words, things that he specified at the time that he was matching them, that he's matching them on condition that he wants to bring them on his own personal mizbeach. Okay. I skipped a sentence there. If he specified that he wanted to bring it at the Mishkan, then he had to bring it to the Mishkan. But if he nonetheless did bring it on his personal mizbeach because whatever it was too much trouble, he's pater from any onish, because at this time, the bamas are permitted. However, he's chayav to keep his word and still bring something at the Mishkan. So he messed up this sacrifice by bringing it locally. He doesn't get any onish from it, but he's still got a chiyuv to bring a korban at the Mishkan. Ma bein bamas yachid lebamas tzibur. Okay, what's the difference in practice between the personal mizbeach and the Mishkan? Smicha, for one thing, is smicha. You don't do smicha on a personal sacrifice. We learn this. We learn this out. Smicha. It's written lifnei Hashem v'samach. You only do the smicha from the pasuk. We see that the smicha is only done when it's close to, when you're actually in Kirbas Makom at the Mishkan. Okay, so shchitas tzafon, the requirement to shech the korban at the northern side of the mizbeach, which is obviously for Kodshe Kodshim. Right, so there you shech the animal wherever you are. There's no location boundaries once you're at a private altar. Private altar is wherever it is, so there's no requirement of where to shecht it. Matan saviv, and sprinkling of the blood around the mizbeach. Okay, if you don't have the proper mizbeach, then you don't have to put the sprinklings onto the right corners of the mizbeach, etc. Okay, utnufa, and if there's any waving, sometimes the Kohen would take parts of the mizbeach and do a waving, the hagasha, and with a mincha offering, you have to bring and touch it to the mizbeach. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ein mincha babama, and Rabbi Yehuda says, well, why are you even talking about hagasha? There's no such thing as a mincha at a private altar. But the Chachamim disagree with him. Why does he say that? Ein mincha babama. He says, "Laman asher yaviu bnei Yisrael es zivcheihem asher hem zovchim al pnei hasadeh." So he says that it says that that pasuk it doesn't mention anything about a mincha offering, about Bama Gadola. Zevachim shekdisham b'shas heter bamas kasa v'daber. Okay, so basically he says when in the pasuk that's talking about the time of the heter of the bamos, it only talks about animal sacrifices. It doesn't talk about flower sacrifices, and therefore he says it's not even shaykh. Okay, but he's a lone voice over there. What else don't you need? Kihun. You don't need a kohen to do it. Okay, he's a Yisrael. He does the shechita. He does whatever he needs to on the mizbech. Okay. Big day sharis, he doesn't need special clothing. Obviously, if he's a Yisrael, he wouldn't be allowed to wear kohen clothing. Klei sharis, you don't need special temple vessels like you do in the Mishkan. Bereach nichoach. Now, what's reach nichoach? There's a technical definition of it, a pleasing fragrance. Now, you think about pleasing fragrance is kind of like a flowery language or whatever, but no, it actually means that it's also to put on the mizbeach limbs that have already been started to be burned outside of the maracha, because there's no reach nichoach. The most pleasing fragrance comes from the raw meat going onto the fire. Okay, but with a private altar, this is mutar. Okay, because shekasuv reach nichoach l'Hashem. I'm not sure what the proof over there means. Anyway, so that act is permitted. Mechitza bedamim. Okay, what's mechitza bedamim? That is the chuta sikra, that line that goes around the middle of the mizbeach, which is where the blood is sprinkled below or above. That doesn't have to exist on a private altar. Rechutz yadayim v'reglayim, and since there's no technical requirement to have a kohen who's serving whatever, there's no need to have washed your hands and feet before doing these things. Aval, things that are the same, azman, nosar, and tameh. Okay, that if he can still mess up his korban by having a pigul thought. Okay, so if he thought that he was going to eat his shlamim in 3 days' time, then it automatically becomes pigul. Nosar, it's left over after the time. There's still a chiyuv kares of eating that, and tameh, and also eating the kodesh if they become tameh is also aser, and is it also for his body? Yes, a tameh person. A tameh person is also aser to do this avodah even on his private mizbeach. So that's one thing that is required. It doesn't have to be rechutz yadayim v'raglayim. It doesn't have to be dressed in any special clothing, but it does have to be tahor. Okay, shavin b'zeh b'zeh. So that is equivalent, and that's where even the private bama has those requirements. Hadran alach maseches zevachim. So now we move over to Menachos, and a mincha obviously is a flower offering, and we start out Menachos in exactly the same way as we started Ad Maseches Zevachim, which is talking about what happens if you have the wrong kavanah.
I took this out. I'm telling you to put this out and put it with the other Mishnayos. Menachos. I took it out. Why? Oh, I know where it is. Okay, sorry. It's not there. I got to go pick it off the shelf. I took it off. I know I did it because I walked there and I looked here. Oh man.
Okay, so starting the first Mishnah of Menachos, Kol ha-Menachos shen nikmatzu shelo lishman. So now, when we have, what are the avodas that are involved in a zevach? You've got 4 avodas. You've got the shechita, you've got the kabbalah, holacha, and zrika. So we said any of those, during any of those 4 stages, if somebody has a thought of a psul, that's where you can mess up the sacrifice. Okay, with a mincha, what have you got? You've got the kmitza, where the kohen takes his 3 fingers full, and so that act has to be done by a kohen. Okay, and then the placing on the mizbeach is not that's not counted. It's only the kemitza that's the matir is the.
So you're saying then that the Kohen doesn't have to do the other 4 acts?
Well, there are no 4 acts. Well, you're not gonna shech the flour.
No, I meant in the previous one you were saying like Zerika and all that. You're saying
so the shechita can be done by Israel, but everything else has to be done by Kohen. Okay, so this has to be done. So we're only interested in seeing the kemitza shelo lishma. Okay, any mincha offering that was done that had a kemitza done shelo lishma is nonetheless kasher. Okay, so now ela shelo alu lebalim mishum chova, but they haven't fulfilled the owner's obligation. This is exactly parallel to the first Mishnah in Zevachim. Chutz mi minchas chote or mi minchas knaus. The only exception is if it's a mincha offering that's brought by a poor person who needs to bring a chatas. Remember, chatas should be an animal, but if he can't afford, he can bring flour. Okay. Now, if he so that is a chatas, and the chatas we know that if you got the wrong kavana, it can't go on the mizbeach. Okay, and the kohanim don't get to eat it. So, chutz minchas chote or minchas kanaos, that is the sota. All right. So if the sota offering was taken shelo lishma, that also has to be disposed of. Minchas chote or minchas kanaos shekamatzin shelo lishman. If he did the kemitza in the wrong with the wrong intention, or nasan bakli v'hilech v'hiktir shelo lishman. So the other stages of the avoda where you can mess it up are also in here, right? If you put it into a kli shares, because that's also part of the avoda, it has to be put into a kli. That's kind of parallel to the kabbalah sadam, right? The kabbalah, the receiving the blood has to be done in a kli. The hilech, and he has to carry it. The hiktir, and then he has to burn it on the mizbech. Any of those that he did shelo lishman, or lishman v'shelo lishman, or if he did partially for lishma, not lishma, or shelo lishman v'lishman, or he started out doing it the wrong way and then corrected his intentions, psulos, all of them are gone. Ketzad lishman shelo lishman, how is it possible? L'shem minchas chote, l'shem minchas nadava. If he thought about doing it first that it was a minchas chote, and then he thought, oh wait, no, this is a voluntary flour offering. Or shelo lishman v'lishman l'shem minchas nadava l'shem minchas chote. He started out thinking that it was for a voluntary flour offering, and then he changed his mind and thought, oh wait, no, this is meant to be for a chate. It doesn't matter which direction you do it; it is pasul and cannot be brought on the mizbeach. This is for a chatas.
I'm confused about something. The flour offering goes on the mizbeach. Has to go on the mizbeach.
The kemitza goes on the mizbeach, and the rest is eaten by the kohanim.
The rest is eaten. What's the rest? The bird?
No, the flour. He brings a big pile of flour, and the kohen does his kemitza, and the kemitza he takes and puts on the mizbeach. The rest of the flour goes for the kohanim to eat.
If I took, they don't eat the flour that was on the mizbeach. What's left over is what they eat.
Yeah,
correct. Right. So what is this? I mean, if I take flour out of my house and I put it down to eat, I'm not going to like it very much.
Of course, you're going to bake it.
Right. So that's why I didn't know. Nobody ever said to me that they baked it.
No, of course they must. That's just like anything else. Like with a chatas animal, if they're going to, if you're not going to eat the meat raw, you got to cook it. And we said in Zevachim they can cook it however they want it, they can stew it, they can roast it, they can do whatever. Same thing goes with this flour. They can mix it with obviously they're going to mix it with water and whatever else they need to make it into a nice bread or something.
Make a challah out of it then. Basically that's what they're doing.
They're doing what?
Making a challah.
Yeah, it could be. Just a second. Yeah.
No, because and challah, because they can't bring chametz into the basic mikdash, so they're making some kind of bread out of it. Not bread. They're making some.
Yeah.
No, I gotta make.
Sure,
right,
sure.
Okay. All right. I got it.
Okay, next base. Achas minchas chotev, achas kol menachos shekamatzan zar. Okay, so it doesn't matter what kind of sacrifice, if it was a chatas or any other kind of mincha, that the non-kohen took the kmitza, or an onen, a kohen who's on the day of the death of one of his relatives, a tevul yom, somebody who's been to mikveh that day but hasn't had harav shemesh, Mechusa begadim, he's not wearing all of his clothes. Mechusa kippurim, or one who still has to bring a korban, like the zav or a Matzora who still hasn't brought the kapara, his korban, which he needs for a kapara. Shelo rechutz yadayim v'raglaim, or a kohen who failed to wash his hands and feet. Arel, an uncircumcised kohen, a tameh kohen. Yoshev, if he's sitting down while he's doing the action, he has to be standing. Okay, or omed al gabe kalim, or he's standing without his feet in direct contact with the ground. So he could be standing on a cloth or something like that, or al gabe behema, or he's standing on an animal, al gabe ragle chaver, or he's standing on his friend's feet. Pasal. That's a total psul in the kmitza, and he's messed up the korban. Kamatz besmall, if he sorry, get a cat out. Kamatz besmall, if he took a kmitza with his left hand, also it's pasul. It must be done with his right hand. Okay, so Ben Beseir Omer Yachzir, he says all of these cases where the kohen messed up the way he took his kmitza, or if a non-kohen took the kmitza, okay, he didn't do any damage. It just didn't do it. It just didn't fulfill the obligation. So therefore, drop the flour back into the pile and do it properly. That's what Ben Beseir says. He says in all these cases, obviously, the one place where you can't is if he's tameh, because if he's tameh, then he made the flour tameh.
Right.
So that's the one place where he couldn't do that. But in all these other cases, you say, okay, so he did not achieve kmitza. All he needs to do is put the flour back and redo it. But the Chachamim say that he's messed up the thing by doing the kmitza incorrectly. Now, what happens if he does the kmitza and there was a stone mixed up inside there? Okay, or garger melach, or a big clump of salt, or koret shel levana, or a big clump of frankincense. Pasul. This is pasul. Why? If you don't take up the exact right measure of for the komets, whether it's less or more, it is pasul. Okay. What happens if you? How could you have more than what you should have? He took it. He didn't close his fingers. Right, so he clamped it and he's holding it tight, and he's got more there than he should have. Okay, v'chaser. And if it's and how can you have too little? Shikamatzo beroshe etzbosav, that he took it with the tips of his fingers and he's not holding it against the palm of his hand. Okay, and that would come out with too little flour. Ketzad hu oseh, and how does he clean it off? Poshet es etzba osav al pas yado. So he puts his fingers on the palm of his hand to hold the flour in between, and then he uses his thumb and his pinky to scrape off the outsides to make sure it's the exact right measure. Okay.
Well, I looked at the note when it said about the Kohen who was uncircumcised. I could, how could the Kohen be uncircumcised? That could be a Kohen in the first place. So explain that maybe he had a brother who died from circumcision, something like that.
Yes.
And he was afraid, and then but still can't do the voting. So all right, we are on Arais.
No, back in Zevachim.
Oh, you're right. Okay, sorry. Okay, Yud Aleph Ket. If one cooked it in sacred and non-sacred meat, or the meat of the whole most holy offerings and of offerings of lesser holiness, if there is enough of them to impart flavor, the less stringent ones must be eaten in the manner of the more stringent ones. And they do not require purging or rinsing, nor do they disqualify by contact. If a wafer comes in contact with another wafer, or a slice of meat with another slice, neither the entire wafer nor the entire slice is forbidden. Only the place which has absorbed is rendered forbidden. A tevel yom, and one who lacks atonement, do not claim a share in the offerings to eat that night. An onen may touch, but he may not offer, and he does not claim a share to eat that night. Kohanim who are blemished, both those who are permanent blemishes, those with only passing blemishes, claim a share and eat, but they may not offer. Whoever is not fit to perform the service does not share in the offering meat, and whoever has no share in the meat has no share in the hides. Even one who was tummy at the time that the blood was thrown in, or at the time the fats were burnt, but does not claim a share in the meat, as it is said, and the one from among the ones of Aaron, the sons of Aaron, the one who offers the blood of the shalamin offering and the fat, the right thigh, shall be his as a gift portion. Whenever the altar does not require the right to meat, the Kohanim do not require the right to hide, as it is said, the Kohen who offers a person's ola offering, and ola which has been credited to a person, an ola offering which was slaughtered for a designation other than its own, even though it is not credited to its owner, its hide belongs to the Kohanim. But the ola offering and a man, and the offering of a man and the ola offering of a woman, their hide belong to the Kohanim.
Okay.
All right, yes. Okay, base. If he ruled independently and acted independently, he is atoned for independently. If he ruled with the community and acted with the community, he is atoned for with the community. For the court is not liable unless it rules to abolish part and retain part. And so too among the anointed Kohen, neither are they liable with regard to idolatry unless they rule to abolish part and retain part. They are not liable except for the oversight of something along with an inadvertent act, and so too the anointed Kohen. Neither are they liable for idolatry except for the overnight sight of something along with an inadvertent act.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. Which Mishnah are you reading?
Base Gimel?
Oh, we're on base. We should be on base.
I did base. That was the first thing I did.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed. Okay, so you're on base Gimel now. Carry on, fine.
Okay. The court is not liable unless it rules on a matter which is punishable by karas for willful transgression and by sin offering to an inadvertent transgression, and so too for the anointed Kohen. Neither are they liable for idolatry unless they rule on a matter which is punishable by karas, really willful transgression, and by a sin offering for an inadvertent transgression. Daled. They are not liable for the positive commandment or the negative commandment concerning the temple, and they do not bring an ashim talu for the positive commandment or the negative commandment concerning the temple. But they are liable with respect to the positive commandment and the negative commandment concerning the menstruate, and they bring an ashim tule for the positive commandment and the negative commandment concerning the menstruate. What is the positive commandment concerning the menstruate? Separate from the menstruate, and the negative commandment do not cohabitate with the menstruate. Okay. I adore that you come to me and testify for me, and so promised to give me 200 zuz, but did not give me. They are exempt, but one is not liable except for the claim of money, as in the case of a deposit. I adore you that when you know testimony for me, that you will come and testify for me. They are exempt because the oath preceded the testimony. If they stood in the synagogue and said, I adore you that you, if you know testimony for me, that you come and testify me, they are exempt unless he directs himself to them. Okay, the Dharma. Okay, base. If someone from the street was prohibited by a neighbor to benefit from one of them, he may not enter the yard. If Eliezer ben Yaakov says, he may say to him, I am entering into your partner's property, I'm not entering into yours. Someone prohibited by a neighbor to benefit from another who owns a bathhouse or an olive press which are being leased in the city, if he has interest in them, it is forbidden. If he does not retain an interest in them, it is permitted. If someone sue another Kohanim, your house with respect to my entering it, or your field with respect to my buying it, and he died and sold it to another person, it is permitted. If he said, Kohanim, this house in respect to my entering, or this field in respect to my buying, and if he died and sold it to another, it is forbidden. If one says to you, I am to you Karen, the person prohibited by the netter is forbidden. You are to me Karen, the person making the netter is forbidden. I am to you, and you are to me, both are forbidden. Both are forbidden in something that is of the pilgrims from Babylon, but they're forbidden in something of that city. Okay, Ma'aser Sheni. If a tree stands inside but inclines to the outside, or stands outside and inclines to the inside, what faces the wall inward is considered inside, and what faces the wall outward is considered outside. Oil presses whose entrances are inside, but their interiors are outside, or their entrances are outside, and their interiors are inside. The Shammai say all is considered inside, but the Beis Hillel says what faces the wall inward is considered inside, and what faces the wall outside is considered outside. The chamber is built in the holy part, and the opening of the non-holy. Their interior is not holy, but their roofs are holy. Built in non-holy and opening unto holy, their interior is holy, but their roofs are not holy. Built in the holy and non-holy, and opening into the holy and non-holy, their interior and roofs above the holy, and toward the holy are holy, above the non-holy and toward the non-holy are non-holy. If Ma'aseh Sheni was born into Yerushalayim, became unclean, whether by an avatuma or by a tuma, whether inside or outside, Beis Shammai says it must be redeemed, and all must be eaten inside except that which became unclean by an avatuma or outside. Outside. Beis Hillel says all must be redeemed and eaten outside except that which is rendered unclean by a avatuma inside. Okay. And last, the Gayam. Gayam, Yud Aleph. A Baharis is half the size of a gris, has no other symptoms inside it. Another Baharis half the size of a gris appears that it has two hairs. This negative is confirmed because it comes to say if the Baharis preceded the white hair, the afflicted person is Tameh, but the white hair preceded the Baharis and is Tahor. If he is uncertain, the afflicted person is Tameh, but Rabbi Yeshua disapproves of this ruling. Any doubt concerning the Gayim is Tahor except for the last case and the next one. And what is the next case? Someone who has a Baharis the size of a gris that the Kohen confined. At the end of the week of confinement, it was the size of a cellar, but it is uncertain whether this is the original nega that it spread or a different nega that replaced it. The Kohen rules it confirmed Tameh. The Kohen confirmed it is nega because of white hair, which then disappeared. Subsequently, either the white hair reappeared or the living skin or expansion appeared. Whether the original white hair had appeared initially after the first week, after the second week, or after the nega had been declared tahor, the status of the nega does not change. The Kohen confirmed the nega because of living skin, and then which then disappeared. Subsequently, either the living skin reappeared or the white hair expansion appeared. Whether the nega was originally confirmed initially after the first week, after the second week, or after declared tahor, the status of the nega does not change. And the Kohen confirmed the nega because of expansion, which then disappeared. Subsequently, either the expansion reappeared or white hair appeared. Whether the original nega was initially confirmed at the end of the first week, at the end of the second week, or after it was declared tahor, the status of the nega does not change.
Okay, and I gotta run.
Okay, good. Have a good day. Bye.
Wonderful day.
Thank you.